Hello everyone, welcome to this new video on Power BI for beginners. This video is designed for professionals who rely on data analysis in the day-to-day work. If you're an intermediate Excel user looking to elevate your analytical skills, you're in the right place. To follow along in this video, some intermediate prior knowledge of Excel and pivot tables will be helpful, however, it's not mandatory. In this tutorial, we'll start with the raw sales data from a superstore and transform it step by step into dynamic and visually appealing dashboard. So let's dive in. To create a dashboard in Power BI, there are broadly 4 steps. First, we need to load our raw data into Power BI. Then we need to clean and transform this raw data. Next, we need to model the data appropriately so it's ready for visualization. And lastly, we need to set up the visuals which we want to see in our dashboard. Let's start with the step 1, which is loading the data. But before we learn how to load the data into Power BI, let's have a quick look at our raw data file and see how it looks like. This is our raw data file. First, we have the sales data sheet. This is where we have the sales, profit, quantity sold, and discount information for a superstore. Next, we have lookup tables. We have product master data, customer master data, order ID master data, and calendar master data. Let's go to product master data. This table contains various attributes for all the products in our system. For example, for each product ID, this table shows you the product name, category name, and the subcategory name. Likewise, the customer master data has customer attributes and so on. Now that we understand the structure for a raw data file, we are ready to load it into Power BI. Open a fresh instance of Power BI Desktop, and if you see this screen, click on the Excel workbook. Then provide the location of the path where your raw data file is saved. As a next step, it shows us the names of all the sheets that are there in our raw data file. If we want, we can load only one or a couple of sheets out of it. However, in this case, I want to load all the sheets that are there in the raw data file. So I'm going to put a check mark next to each of the sheet names. After this, we can either click on the load button, which will load the data directly into Power BI for visualization, or I can click the transform data button, which will enable us to do some data transformation and cleaning steps before we load it into Power BI. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the transform data button. After clicking on the transform data, the Power Query editor will open up. Power Query is a powerful tool used for data transformation and cleaning. It offers a wide range of techniques to shape your data the way you need. Since this video is intended for Power BI beginners, I won't be covering all the features available in Power Query Editor. However, if you're interested in deep diving into the world of Power Query, feel free to check out my other videos, and I'll include the links in the description below. For now, we will do some basic data transformation. First, let's take a look at our sales data table. Everything seems fine over here, but we have a row ID column that isn't adding a lot of value to our analysis. So let's go ahead and remove it. To do that, I'll select the column and simply press delete. Next, let's check out the product master data table. Normally, Power Query automatically promotes the first row as headers, but in this case, it did not. So no worries, let's fix that. I'll go to the Transform Data tab and select Use First Row as Headers. Now let's move to the Order Master Data table. Everything looks good over here, so we don't need to make any changes. Next, we will jump to the Customer Master Data table. I noticed that the postal code field over here is currently set as a whole number data type, but it should be in text format. So I'll correct that by changing the data type to text format from the drop-down menu. Lastly, let's take a look at the calendar master data table. We've got a couple of extra columns here that we don't need, so I'm going to start by deleting them. Next, notice that we only have a date column here. For our analysis later on, we'll need additional fields like month name, quarter name, and year. Fortunately, Power Query makes it very easy to create these new columns. Follow along as I show you how to add them step by step. Select the date column and then go to Add Column. Under the Date tab, you can select a lot of different options. I'm going to go and select the name of the month. Next, I'm gonna go and say the quarter of the year. And again, I'm gonna select the date and I'm gonna select the year. For year, I want to assign the data type of text, so I'm gonna do that. For the month name, I don't want to see the full month name, I just need the first 3 letters of the month name. So I'm gonna select this and then go to transform, extract, first characters, and I'm gonna put in 3. Now the quarter field which the Power Query has added shows 1, 2, 3, and 4. However, I want to see it as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So there's a way to do it as well. I'm first going to add a custom column. And in this custom column, I'm just going to put in Q. This will be a type text. And now I'm also going to assign the type text to the quarter column. Now I'm going to select the custom column, which only contains Q. I'm going to hold my control key and select the quarter column. And then I'm going to right click and merge the columns. I don't want to put any separator, and the name of the new column will be quarter name. And voila, there you go. We have the quarter name and it shows Q1, Q2, etc. just like we wanted. And I'm going to rename it as quarter. Now we are done with pretty much all the transformations that we needed in our data, which means that we are ready to load it into Power BI for visualization. Go to the Home tab and click Close and Apply. As you can see in the data pane on the right, all our tables have been successfully loaded. If needed, we can actually start building the visuals right away. Let's say I want to create a simple matrix table. If you're familiar with pivot tables in Excel, the matrix table visual in Power BI works quite similarly. For those new to the pivot tables, I have a dedicated video covering the pivot tables in full detail, and I'll include the link in the description. So let's go ahead and create a matrix table to view sales by customer ID. First, I'm going to select the matrix visual from the Visualizations tab. Now, from the sales data table, I'm going to drag the customer ID to the rows section and sales field to the values section. And there you go. Our matrix table is working perfectly fine. But as I mentioned earlier, the second step in creating dashboards in Power BI is data modeling. Now, you might wonder, why do we need data modeling when our table is already working quite fine? To understand the importance of data modeling, let's consider this example. Suppose I no longer want to see the sales by customer ID. Instead, I want to see the sales by region of the customer. We do not have the region field in the sales data table, so we can't get directly from there. However, there is a region field in the customer master data table. Let's try dragging the region field into the matrix. So I'm going to remove the customer ID from here and let's drag region into the rows. You'll notice that for every region, the table is showing the same total sales value, which is clearly incorrect. So how can we fix this? This is where the data modeling comes into play. Now, if you were using Excel, you'd probably use a VLOOKUP or another lookup function to fetch the region information and bring it into the sales data table. But the beauty of Power BI is that you don't need to go through all that hassle. Instead, we can just simply tell Power BI how these two tables are related, and it will do the rest. To set up these relationships, we will go to the Data Modeling tab. But before that, let me undo the last step and go back to the original position where we had customer ID in the metrics table. So I'm going to remove the region and bring the customer ID back. Now let's go to the Data Modeling tab. Here you can see all the tables we have loaded. We want to create a relationship between the customer master data table and the sales data table. An important point to remember when creating relationships between these tables is to identify a common column that exists in both the tables that we want to connect. In our case, customer ID field is present in both the sales data table as well as the customer master data table. So we can use this field to establish the relationship. So I'm going to click the customer ID field in the customer master data table and drag it and drop it on top of the customer ID field in the sales data table. Let's click on the Save button. And there we go. Now we have a relationship between these two tables. Now there are a couple of key considerations when creating the relationships which you should always keep in mind. The linking column in the master data table should always have unique values. Make sure there are no duplicates. The linking column is the column that is used to connect the two tables, and in our case it is the customer ID column. Secondly, there should also be no blank values in the linking column. If there are any blank values in the linking column in the master data table, then your relationship will not work or it will throw up an error. Once we establish the relationship, you'll notice a line connecting the two tables. This indicates that the relationship has been established. You can also see that it's a one-to-many relationship, represented by the symbols at the end of each line. So what does a one-to-many relationship mean? It means that one of the tables in the relationship, and in our case it is the customer master data table, has unique values for the linking column. This means that each customer ID appears only once in the customer master data table. While in the sales data table, any customer ID can occur multiple times. And that's why you see one on the master data table side and asterisk on the sales data table side. Now let's go back to our canvas. Now if I drag the region field from the customer master data table, you'll see that the metrics now works perfectly fine. Now I'm going to delete the customer ID field and bring the region field from the customer master data table again. And as you can see, the metrics table is now working perfectly fine, showing the correct sales figure by region. This is because now Power BI knows that these two tables are connected, and as a result of which, the customer master data table is able to filter the sales data table correctly. I'm going to repeat this process to connect the other master data tables with our sales data table. So please follow along. So I've successfully set up relationships for the order ID master data table and the product master data table using the order ID and the product ID fields as the linking columns. However, I'm unable to directly connect the calendar master data table to the sales data table because there's no common linking field between them. The calendar table has a date field, but there is no corresponding date field in the sales data table. So how do we solve this? As a workaround, we can connect the calendar master data table to the order master data table, since both the tables have a date field that can serve as a linking column. Even though the calendar table won't be directly connected to the sales data table, you will see in a few seconds that we will still be able to filter the sales data using the fields from the calendar table. This is because the filters and the relationships will flow from the calendar table through the order master data table, ultimately influencing the sales data table. So I'm going to place the calendar table on top of the order ID master data table and connect the two tables using the date field. Let's go back to our canvas to see the magic. Now we can pull fields from any master data table and get the correct sales figure from the fact table, all thanks to these relationships which we have just set up. So let's say I want to see the sales by category. I'm going to remove the region, bring in the category field, and you will see the correct sales numbers will pop out. This would not have happened if we had not set up the relationship between the product ID table and the sales data table. Similarly, if I drag a field from order master data, that should work as well. And lastly, even the calendar master data table, which is not directly connected to the sales data table, will also work quite fine because it's connected to the sales data table via the order ID master data. Congratulations everyone, you've come a long way. We have successfully cleaned and transformed the raw data, we have completed the data modeling, and now we're ready to start setting up the visuals. Before diving into creating the dashboard, I always recommend spending a few seconds on high-level wireframing. This step helps you outline your dashboard and provides a clear direction for your work. A wireframe is essentially a rough sketch of how you would want your final dashboard to look like. You can do this on a paper with a pencil, in PowerPoint, or directly in Power BI. I'll be doing some high-level wireframing right here in Power BI. So I will fast forward the video for a few seconds while I'm doing that. I've completed my wireframe, so let me quickly walk you through it. On the left, I want to display a table that shows sales broken down by category along the rows and years along the columns. On the right side, I plan to place a bar graph that breaks the sales down by quarter. At the bottom right, I'd like to include a pie chart that shows distribution of sales and profits by region and category. Finally, at the top, I want to add 4 cards showing sales, profit, quantity, and discounts. So now that we have a plan, let's start populating these visuals with the numbers and data. First of all, I'll select my table visual. I'll put the category in the rows. And next to category, I want to show region. So I'm going to go to the customer master data table and select region and put it right under category. Next, I will select the year, put it along the columns. And then I'm going to take the sales amount and put it into the values section. Next, I'm going to select the bar graph visual. Here, I'm going to put the year along the x-axis and also the quarter along the x-axis. And then we're going to drag the sum of sales along the y-axis. Let's move to our pie chart. In the first pie chart, I want to show the sales broken down by region. So I'm going to drag the region to the legend field and sales to the values. In the second pie chart, I'm going to do the same thing, just instead of sales, I'm going to put the profit numbers. So I'm going to drag the region into legend field and profit into the values. Lastly, we need to populate the cards at the top, so let's do that. First card will show the sales number. The second one should show the quantity. Third one will be profit. And for the last one, we'll put in the discount. Perfect. All the data required for these visuals has been added. The last step is to format these visuals. If you're following along, replicate the steps on the screen to achieve the same formatting as mine. Once you're done formatting your report, you can try out different color schemes. Go to the View tab and check out different color schemes and select the one that you like the most. Congratulations, you've just created your first Power BI dashboard. If you want to share this report, you'll need to publish it to Power BI Online. Keep in mind that you'll need an organizational account to do this. For example, you won't be able to use your Gmail account to log in onto Power BI Online. If you don't have an organizational account, reach out to your IT team and they should be able to help you. I'll go ahead and publish this dashboard. Once it's published, you can access your dashboard anytime by visiting app.powerbi.com. And there we go, we have our dashboard ready and we can view it in full screen as well. Before wrapping up, I want to leave you with a few additional tips. The report we've built today is quite a basic one. If you're working in a more complex data analytics environment, you might find that this dashboard lacks flexibility and might not fully meet the user's needs. For example, let's look at the table that shows sales by category and region. What if the users want to see the sales by country instead? This option isn't available, making the dashboard a bit restrictive. But there's a solution to it. By using parameters, we can allow the users to select the field they would like to view. Similarly, this table currently displays the sales figures only. But what if users want to switch to viewing profit or discount information? This is possible too. We can create measures and dynamic visuals that provide users the options to choose from. These features are slightly more advanced, so I'll cover them up in my upcoming videos. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new. Don't forget to check out my next videos where I'll show you how to add these advanced features to your dashboard. Until then, keep practicing and I'll see you in the next one.